recently completed this study with MDOT, you can just close your eyes now. It's time for you to, because you have seen this like 10 times. Justin and Adnan was on the committee on this. Wow, I think it's using up a lot of batteries. So
now it's out. Yes. You want me to?
If you don't mind.
Yep. I need that card though. Okay. I throw out all business cards I get.
All right, so let me turn on the microphone here. Okay. Can you hear me? You increase the volume a little bit. How about? Oh, okay, this is good, right?
Yeah.
Trying to stay here. So for calibration, the thermal cracking model is based on a cumulative crack depth propagation, so based on fracture mechanics model. So every single time, every single cycle of cooling during the winter, so amount of crack that is developed because of the temperature variations is essentially accumulated with this delta C. So this delta C is calculated from the Paris law of crack propagation. This is from the fracture mechanics. So A delta K to the power N. And these are the fracture parameters that are used, A and N. And these A and N values are essentially, A comes from the indirect tensile strength. So there's an equation, 10 to the power, and this is an empirical equation. So this A can be calculated, the rate of crack growth can be calculated from the strength and this beta factor. And this beta factor is essentially the calibration factor that you enter in the pavement ME. And N goes here, and also here is the slope of the creep compliance curve. So the creep compliance is the slope of the creep compliance in the log space is calculated based on this. 0.8 times 1 plus 1 over m is our slope. Thank you. Okay, good. All right. Okay, and then that beta is actually K. In the documentation says beta, but in here K is used. So that K is the calibration factor. So we have done a study on what K to use for Michigan, and I'm not going to get into too many details of the study, but eventually what we decided is that we, as MSU, would recommend MDOT to use a mixture-specific K values to, if they want to improve the predictions of thermal cracking. That's the only way that you can predict thermal cracking accurately. That means that just like the dynamic modulus is an input for a given project, we are saying that K should also be an input for a given project. I know it's tedious and everything, but if you want an accuracy like this, essentially this is where we started with. This was the predicted versus measured values, and this, based on our recommendation, predictions improved significantly, quite significantly. Of course, comes with the price of an additional complexity. Okay, unbound layers, base and subgrade layers, they have an equation that is only rutting based. So this equation is also based on resilient modulus test, and you need to run that test and come up with the rutting. Okay, it's time for the break. Actually, let me see how many slides left. Oh, that's the end. That's pretty much the last. So let me finish this up. Let's take a break. Okay, and so we have unbound layer plastic strain is beta 1, is the only calibration factor really for the unbound layers. And these numbers are really calculated from the enhanced integrated climatic model, which is essentially water content controls the, because of the rain and all that precipitation, climatic model calculates what level of moisture content is these base come up with, and they are used in this formulation. And for these also, the vertical strain at the center of unbound layers are used as an input. So the way to calibrate is we fit the experimental data, which is like a plastic strain versus cycles data, by using this equation, by come up with this and these values. These are like A, B, and C values, even though they look very, with Greek letters and everything, but this is like one constant, another constant, another constant. And then we use these fitted values to calibrate A1, A2, and A3 coefficients, these coefficients for this unbound layer. And then we use this, which is calculated from the field, to come up with this beta factor for local calibration. I think this is just a rewrite of unbound layer equation. Okay, so this would be the end of the slides for this session. Let's take a break of 10 minutes, and then we'll be back at 4:15.
If you have those forms done, you can bring them right up here if you like. Thanks. So, Russ. See you too. Very well. Guys are hanging in there pretty well, aren't they? Oh, do you want to email me that spreadsheet? Easter spreadsheet and the super page spreadsheet. Sure. I'll distribute it right now. Okay. And then go ahead and email the certificates. I'll do it now. Could you? Good. Unless you just want to relax, that's fine too. That's fine. I just don't want to take a copy. You want a copy? I'll bring you a copy. Anything in it? Yeah. Half a glass. Okay, got it.
So, Dr. Patai, if you need to do a project-specific K value, isn't it after the fact? I mean, you're trying to do a pavement design, but you gotta build it to design it. Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure if I follow that.
Good question. So, or if you rephrase the question, I rephrase your question, how do I know what K to use for a given project? Right? That's your not that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So, for a given, let's say Holt Road. You are designing Holt Road and I'm telling you, okay, use project specific K value. Don't use K of 0, 1, just use something. How do I know what K to use in that project? Right? Is that your question?
Well, yeah. I mean, I use whatever the default value is.
So the answer is this. What we did for MDOT is we came up with a predictive equation to find K from the mixture properties, like E star, volumetrics, and all that. So there is an equation that I did not put in here, but there is an equation in our report that in the final report. They use that genetic programming thing that I mentioned yesterday, came up with a long equation that relates the properties of the mixture to the K. So for example, if you are talking about a 4E3 mix, let's say you're planning to use a 4E3 mix for Holt Road. So what K you're going to use? First of all, use our equation to find that K. So that it's a 4E3 mix. It's an E3 mix that 3 millions is one of the inputs. PG is one of the inputs. And there are a couple more things that are inputs. So you use those two.
Gradation.
What's that?
Gradation kind of thing?
Gradation kind of thing, yes. And binder content and all that. So those are inputs. And it will give you a K value that you should be using for that. So that's what we say when we say project specific. That's kind of an equation. That is you know. And when we did that using that equation, result.
So, is that built into the software then? Does MDOT have
Yeah.
the ability to have modules in the software to pre?
All software is this. No, not into the software. It's just we developed this. So this little Excel sheet we developed. So you enter the design, mix design traffic, binder low PG, layer thickness that you are thinking of, job mix formula, expected air voids, design air voids, usually 4%, sometimes 3.5%. Binder content, expected binder content, and E star value. These are an input anyway to the ME. You just take these numbers from these data. K is calculated, and that's the K that you use in This is not external.
Where would you get the E star from a prior mix design? Or?
Yeah. So you know, we for MDOT we tested 64 different mixtures, collected all over the state.
On projects.
How's that?
Projects.
MDOT projects. So 4E, 3E, 5E, all bunch of projects, and MDOT actually came up with like default, you know, approximate E star values for different 4Es and 5Es with different PGs and everything. And then they used. And actually, we have a software that we developed for them. It's called Dynamo. That software has a predictive model that for E star from that is calibrated for mixtures in Michigan. So if you enter like a PG of the binder and certain gradation of the mixture, the binder content will give you E star at different frequencies. And you can use. And that's what actually Justin and Adnan use. Come up with a whole bunch of default E star values we use for design. You can use that in here to find the K value.
This thing,